Welcome to another deep dive edition of the Chicks on the Right podcast. Today, we are going to talk about recent documentary. I'm assuming it's fairly recent, that's appearing on Netflix right now called White Hot. And it is about, it's about the rise and fall of Abercrombie and Fitch. And we have a lot of thoughts, and I don't even know completely all of Daisy's thoughts yet. She knows some of mine, but we're going to get into all of that in just a minute. But first, we need to remind everybody watching and or listening right now that if you have been thinking about investing in gold or expanding your financial portfolio in a way that is new, which could be with precious gold, there is no better place to do that with than our friends at Acre Gold. And Acre Gold, this is a 2.5 gram bar of gold that I'm holding up. This is what I get in the mail because I have a subscription to Acre Gold. And that means that I send them $50 a month. And then as I earn gold, they just send it to me in the mail and I get to stockpile it in my own little safe at home, which is really cool. And they have different sizes. So if you want to go a little bit bigger than this and do $100 a month, you can get the 5 gram bars, or $250 a month will get you the 10 gram Mac Daddy giant Willy Wonka size bars. So
yeah,
it's awesome. It's just a really cool way to do it, right? Like the whole
right. I'd go for the 10 gram Flava Flav bar is what I would do. Wear it around my neck. That's what I would do. That's how I go. That's how I roll, you guys. You should totally do this. It's a hedge, if you will. #hedge.
Hashtag hedge. You can check it out, get all the details at their awesome website. It's getacregold.com/chicks and just learn about it. And if you don't think it's the coolest thing ever, then first of all, I don't know what's wrong with you. But second of all, you're crazy.
Right. Just do it. Totally do it.
Just do it. Okay, so this past weekend, I had a very self-care kind of weekend, as I told you. I was alone. My husband and son were traveling, and so I had the house to myself, and I binge-watched a lot of things. One of the things that I decided to watch was this new-ish documentary on Netflix called White Hot, and it tells the story about Abercrombie and Fitch, which before this documentary, all I really knew about Abercrombie and Fitch is that it stinks to high heaven whenever I pass it in the mall, and I want nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Really. I've been in it a lot. Now, see, I've raised teenagers that are now grown. And so I've been through the whole early 2000s. Now I know this Abercrombie started in the 90s. The 90s.
That's their heyday. They actually started in the 1800s something or whatever.
But they're right. They're old. 1852 is when because they were for a bunch of old dudes, old white dudes. They're gonna have and then it was then they came back and had a resurgence because they had this Jeffries guy, this Mike Jeffries, the CEO. He rebranded it with the guy, the really old dude. I can't remember his name, that has had all the brands like Bath and Body Works and the Victoria's Secret and the Express.
Oh,
and
that
all of
Lex Wexman or something like that. Yeah,
it's Lex Wexman, whatever. But he does stuff. The guy that had ties to Jeffrey Epstein, that's just sort of sketch, that dude. But he's the one that created all the big brands. And so he came in with this Mike Jeffries guy, and they rebranded Abercrombie and Fitch in the 90s. And then in the heyday, I guess in the 90s, late 90s, and then early 2000s, I had teenagers who I helped raise who were in that store all the time. And it smelled like a freaking whorehouse. It's gross. Yeah. And you walked in there and you just I'm gonna need 4 showers. And there was a guy in the documentary who I totally related to because he's like, dude, I get migraines. And I'm like, yeah, I can relate. Because every time I would walk through there, I'd be like, I'm gonna get a migraine from this place. Because it just makes you feel nauseous when you would walk through there because the smells are so bad. And one thing that I noticed too is they had the shutters on the windows. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're walking into something that you're not really sure what you're walking into, but they want you to walk in, and they have the big posters on the outside, and you're like, okay, what is this? I'm gonna walk in and see what this is. And then, so you walk in and the music's pumping, and it's they got the smells and the sounds, and so you're walking into what they say is an experience, and that is the Abercrombie and Fitch thing, right? It's an experience. That's what they wanted you to have, and that's the brand. The
I never
experience.
had that experience. I wanted nothing to do with that experience. I smelled and I heard and I was like, no. And it's dark, right? Isn't it super dark in there?
Well, at the time, yeah, back in the day, it was dark. So
Yeah.
it was kind of weird. And there were people, all the people in there that were working there when, back in the day when I was there with the older kids, they were, cute kids, and they were spraying crap. And I was like, ugh, stop with the spraying. I'm gonna like punch you, and they were spraying the crap, and everybody was cute, and it was, there was an aesthetic there. There was an aesthetic back in the early 2000s, at least. That's kind of what I mean. You sort of noticed that, right? And it was irritating. As a parent, you were just like, whatever, and it's like, and this costs, $58 for a sweatshirt. That's what you think as a parent. You're just like, this is so stupid. You can get the same sweatshirt, like, but because it says Abercrombie on it, this is what these kids want. But I related it to back when you and I lived through the 80s. I mean, Guess jeans were Guess jeans, right? Jeans are jeans.
Yeah. And
but
Forenza. Do you remember the Forenza sweaters?
With the popped collar.
With the popped collar.
Like, right. Jeans are jeans. And I remember my mom being like, jeans are jeans. And I'm like, yeah, but I want the triangle on my ass,
Right.
Because that's what's cool. And so every generation sort of has their cool thing. They have their cool brands that everybody wants to wear because teenagers are going to teenage, and they're going to want to fit in. And so that's just part of growing up. And so I don't know. I don't really see a problem with the whole, they're going to grow out of it. Kids go through that phase. They see that that's a cool thing to do. They want to wear the clothes. And then they realize that was all really stupid once they get to be in college. And they all wear sweatpants anyway. It's like, so whatever.
Well, for people who have not seen it, the documentaries, the whole purpose of it, it's only an hour and a half. It goes by really, really quick. But essentially what they do is they showcase what happened to the brand over time. And essentially, long story short, what happened to the brand is that they got themselves into a lot of trouble because of their discriminatory hiring and employment practices. And so I could tell, and I'm looking at this from not just a personal standpoint, but from also a previous HR person standpoint.
Yep.
I could tell that the point that I was supposed to get was that I was supposed to agree with all of the people in the documentary that it was horrible, that the way that Abercrombie's hiring practices worked was just so awful that any fool could see it. And I could tell the whole time that was the point of the documentary, is to show me, oh yeah, that was awful, that they only wanted a certain look for their employees, for their front facing models. They wanted a very specific, quote, all-American look. And so I know what I was supposed to think. And then what made me force you to watch it is that I ended up thinking, is there something wrong with me? Because I don't really see why this was a problem. I understand legally why they got themselves into trouble, because they were obviously a public company and they were huge, right, and they had a certain number of employees that requires you to follow laws against discrimination. However, those laws don't seem to apply to a whole bunch of different industries, and why they should have applied to a brand that wanted to be exclusionary.
Right.
I don't understand why that's bad. Wouldn't the market just take care of that problem? If you don't like them, don't go work for them. And if you don't like them, don't wear them. Like, why is it harder than that?
Yeah. And they said out loud, we market to the cool kids. That's what they said. And people did not like that. Mm-hmm. And as they went on and on, it progressively got worse to say that out loud. At first, that was an okay thing to say. And it attracted a lot of people to say, we market to the cool kids and we want to get that aesthetic. And it's okay to like say that a girl needs to look a certain way and be a certain stature and have a certain aesthetic. And she can only wear like a thin, silver necklace in the store. And she has to, I mean, when I say the CEO was very specific about how he wanted people to look. They needed to dress a certain way, look a certain way, have a certain physique. I mean, everything was detailed. And he was very specific about how he wanted his people to present themselves in the stores, how like the stores were like a certain way. They were very clean. He was very meticulous, which there's something to be said for that. It used to be that, CEOs, listen, the guy's a skeeve. I don't like the guy. Plus he's had way too much plastic surgery. Like you see him now.
He looks like Gary Busey.
Oh my God. Like Gary Busey's head, like he's been stung by tracker jackers. I mean, seriously, he's unrecognizable from when he first started at Abercrombie and Fitch. And listen, I know he's way older, but I mean, when I say unrecognizable, it's like a completely different person. It's like he's going into the witness protection program. Holy crap. Oh my God. But I mean, the guy skeeves me out. Okay. And there's all sorts of stuff that like if and when you watch the documentary, there's all sorts of sex stuff that is not okay, that is alleged with the company behind the scenes that I'm like, that's nasty. It's gross and it's all not okay. But beyond that, when it comes to just the hiring and the wanting a certain aesthetic for a company, like you and I own a company and we're never going to be public, right? It's a teeny tiny little company. But from a branding standpoint, I've always been very fascinated by brands and branding in general. I'm just fascinated by them and how, like, what's successful, what's not, who succeeds, who doesn't. And what you just said just a couple minutes ago about how some people are exempt from these sorts of laws and then some people aren't. I find that fascinating. Like, they say they're they're not now because there's a woman CEO now that has taken over the company and they're like all about diversity and inclusion, right? Because everybody is. Everybody's about D&I now, right? But it's, it used to be that they could say out loud, we're an exclusionary brand. We are exclusionary because we cater to sort of like the elite. And people wanted that. People wanted to feel like they were part of something great, even though, like a lot of kids were middle-class kids, but they thought, you know what, this is an affordable way to feel like I can be part of, like, I don't know, like maybe I'm part of the yacht club or like part of like this elite group of kids where I can pay, $48, $58 for a sweatshirt, have this thing on my arm, this Abercrombie and Fitch on my arm, and feel like I'm part of this elite group of kids, even though I'm not, and I don't know what was
aspirational.
It was aspirational. Right. And they did that. And I honestly think that that's a genius way to market.
Well, and it was forever, right? That's the secret to their success in the late 90s and the 2000s is precisely because of that specific brand. And then when they started getting trouble for it, that's when things became less successful for them. Now, granted, they were in the news for, they got themselves into trouble a lot. And most famously, when the Muslim gal wanted to apply for a job and she wanted to wear her hijab, which of course went completely off brand. And it was interesting because Mike Jeffries at the time was like, no, listen, I've tried to make some changes here and there to accommodate like some of the other, complaints that we've had. But on this, I am not backing down. I don't allow the guys that work for me to wear ball caps. I don't allow head coverings of any kind. That is my brand and I'm sticking to it. And by golly, I'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. Well, he did. And he lost big. He lost. The Supreme Court voted 8-1 that yes, he discriminated. Abercrombie discriminated against this Muslim gal. They got in the way of her religious freedom. She should be able to wear her hijab. But again, why? Why does she want to work there if she can see the aesthetic clearly and she knows that she does not match it? Why not just go work somewhere else? It's not like there's a freaking shortage of clothing stores and it's not like she can't shop for clothes somewhere else. I just think this is so much about the market working itself out because there's going to be plenty of wokesters who are like, they're not going to allow hijabs. Well, fuck them. I'm not going to buy from them. Okay. That's the point. That is the point.
Yeah. It's sort of like, it's like me wanting to go work at a Hooters right now. Like can you imagine?
Well, you could actually probably pull that off.
No,
so that's not a good example.
No, it's a terrible example. It's a terrible example. I love you for saying that, and that's very sweet. but I first of all,
I'm a good push-up bra.
No, I'm an A cup, first of all. And I'm 50 and I'm 50 freaking years old. And stuff is saggy, y'all. I mean, I'm just saying, if I went in and I said I'm gonna go work at a Hooters, they would be like, okay, first of all, you're about 30 years past where you should be. And that is just I know that, like, I know this as a human being. I know that I should not go in and try to work at a Hooters. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, why would I want to do that? Now, granted, I could go in there and be like, well, they're not going to let me work here, I should sue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And people
But
already have. That's why Hooters also now allows, like, you know, plus size and men and all of it. I mean, all companies are doing this, and now everybody's the same.
Right. And actually, the plus size thing, the body positivity movement, also affected Abercrombie and Fitch in 2013. That was like one of the things too that brought them down, because it used to be that, I mean, they would, that one of their big aesthetics was, well, thin people, frankly, because and honestly, even now, like, if you look at their clothes are made, frankly, for thin people. They can say until the cows come home. I mean, let's just get real. You can say, oh yeah, we cater to people who are plus size. No, they don't. Have you seen their clothes? I mean, seriously. I mean, they can say it and say it until they're blue in the face. But Abercrombie and Fitch I think, will always be a brand that caters to thin people, even though they say that they may make sizes that are bigger, but do they make sizes that are, like, I don't know, do they make a size 24? Do they? I don't think they do. So this is the thing. I mean, they cater to a certain size market. It's not like they're a super plus size brand. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know, but that whole body positivity thing is another thing that brought them down, because it's just, I think it's a culture shift, and they just didn't survive the culture shift. Right. They didn't do it.
Yeah. But then okay, and I don't even know if, like, the store still exists. It probably doesn't. But, like, could just a super rail thin person go and work at Lane Bryant? Or could a white person demand a role on BET? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know how Hollywood gets away with half of the casting shit that they do. Like, they're huge. That's a huge industry. And yet they have to be exclusionary in order for movies to work the way that they work. And so I don't understand how it is that some industries are seemingly exempt from all the rules, and yet others Mike Jeffries made it clear as day what he wanted his store, his clothing, his models to look like. Why can't he have that? Like, why is that so awful?
I think Hollywood is just exclusionary in general. Hollywood is exclusionary in general. And if we can talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we're getting so carried away that I almost forgot to mention that MyPillow is still holding their slippers and moccasins super mega sale. And you guys, I know you're probably seeing Mike Lindell on TV. He's got commercials there too, where he is telling you when these are gone, they are gone forever. So you don't want to miss out on getting, like, the most comfortable slippers or moccasins of your entire life when they're at this sale price. We're talking $90 off for either the slippers or moccasins. Amazing. And they're like 4 layers of kitten fur squeezy technology goodness. Now, he won't call it that. We will, because we know the truth, Mike Lindell. We're on to you.
Also, listen, I'm going to put my tree up in September. I'm putting my Christmas tree up, which means that I'm going to start buying Christmas presents. You guys should start buying them too. It is never too early to start buying Christmas presents. And you know, everybody wants slippers for Christmas. So get them.
Get them now. Yeah. Yes. MyPillow.com/chicks. Get them. Use code chicks. Get all the discounts. You are not going to regret it. I promise you. Okay.
Listen. So I was going to say, there is a brand that I really love. When you were having a self-care weekend, I was having a shopping weekend, which is really weird because it's all about retail, right? But I went back to school shopping with my daughter. And since there's not a lot of good shopping here in Waco, sorry, Waco, I love you, but there's just not a lot of good shopping. We drove to Austin, the land of the freaks. We drove there and went shopping. And there's this great brand that my daughter absolutely loves, and it's called Brandy Melville. And because my daughter's she loves finding new brands and stuff like that. And so Brandy Melville has, like, a whole line of t-shirts called John Galt, which
wow.
Right. And all these t-shirts and everything in the store, and not everything, I'd say 90% of the stuff in her store is all one size fits all. Okay, well, one size fits all to her doesn't fit me. All right. Like, and I'm not a great big person. I mean, I wouldn't
No.
consider myself a very big person. But I can't wear her stuff. I mean, it is like tiny and cropped, and it's made for like itty bitty teenage girls. And so you walk in, and
Okay.
some of it's,
So
what I
it's one
mean? So
size
it's,
fits all for kids.
well, no, it's not for kids. It's for women who probably are stick thin and like, and want to show off their midriffs and are probably like a size 02 mock. And so,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's not made for people like me who want to go to a swim meet and not look like a complete skank. You know what I mean? But man,
So it's not for size 4. Let's just let the
right.
record reflect.
But I gotta tell you, there are some shirts in there that I was like, God, I wish I could wear this, because some of the shirts are really cool, because she's very Americana, and there's a lot of cool like rock and roll stuff in there, and that's totally up my alley. So I was looking, and I thought to myself, if I imagine that there's probably a person that or a couple people that would walk in here and be like, this is exclusionary. This is somewhat exclusionary, because I can't wear this stuff. I can't. I love it, but I can't wear it. So to me, at least for me, I was like, dang, I'd really love to buy that shirt right there that has, like Jimi Hendrix on it or something, but I can't wear it because it would never fit me. It fits my
Yeah.
daughter, but it doesn't fit me. So it is exclusionary. So I think but I love her stuff. So I'm like cheering for her, and I want her to succeed, because I believe in brands that are cool and that do cool things, and that, that have great ideas, and that do cater to certain groups of people. And she
Mm-hmm.
obviously has a niche. She has a niche, and she has a demographic in mind, and she has an idea. She had a great idea, and she's a beautiful store. And it's like, and I think to myself, I hope she wins. I hope she does really well. And she's obviously doing really well, because the place was freaking crowded. So I think to myself, good for her. But it is exclusionary. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
time and a place for being exclusionary and being successful, right?
But is there?
So
Because apparently the law does not allow it. And this is what I find is so, because it's kind of like the people that complain, and I'm sure you noticed this in the documentary, the people that were upset by this, that were loud about it, that started the petitions, that filed the lawsuits, that put in the formal complaints, all didn't fit the aesthetic. Right. So of course they were excluded, and apparently that made them have all kinds of hurt feel bads about it. And so they were like, well, if I'm excluded, then they have to change everything. They have to change who they are to accommodate me. Even though, again, there is no shortage of clothing stores that cater to those people, to all people, to any people. There's plenty of stores that do that. Why can't we have some exclusive stores? Like, why is that a problem? And how does it not work with pricing? Like, how does it not work with Louis Vuitton? I mean, I can't go in and get whatever I want from Louis Vuitton because I can't afford it. When are they going to start making stuff that I can afford? Damn it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like, I don't.
Well, that's exclusionary. That's exclusionary, right?
And it's fine.
Right. Well, I guess it is fine, but when is it going to be not fine? Because eventually somebody's gonna have to say, well, this is not fine, right? Because they cater to a certain clientele. And that absolutely is exclusionary, because like only certain people, like you say, can afford it. And that's like the cream of the crop person. That's the person that is like, they're the wealthy people. So those are the people that Abercrombie and Fitch was trying to say, you can sort of pretend to be those people if you're not actually those people. But Louis Vuitton is actually catering to those people. So it's like,
except they would say, well, but it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter your attractiveness level. If you have the money, we're going to sell to you. That would be their defense, I guess. And in Abercrombie's case, they literally were trying to hire, or at least have front facing only, like a certain look, a certain, and even when they had people of color in the front of their stores, if those people didn't match or didn't meet up to whatever their attractiveness level standards were, then they got
Right.
booted to the stockroom, or they didn't get scheduled or whatever. And so, you know, I understand. Watching the documentary, I was like, okay, I get it. I get why this hurt people. I understand why it hurt people, but I still don't know if it's that bad. Like, because I just feel like, then just don't work there. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't understand the gay people who specifically go to get a wedding cake ordered from a Christian bakery. Why do you do that? Why do you do that when there's a million other bakeries that you know will bake your cake? Why do you have to make everybody bake you the cake instead of just going where you know that they want to? Why?
Yeah, it's like, why do you want to be friends with the person that you hate so much?
Right.
Why do you want to be friends with that person? If you hate that person, why do you want to be friends with them so much? I never understood that either. Just like give them the finger and go and keep walking. I know. But for some reason, it's sort of like in the society now, everybody's forced to get along. Everybody's forced to be friends, and everybody's forced to do everybody's forced. We're all forced to do all of these things.
Yeah.
And then we're all forced to be inclusionary, which, listen, I get it. I get the whole, there's a certain, like, you cannot discriminate. I get the whole you cannot discriminate thing. But if they were a private company, would because this is a legit question, because you were a hiring manager, would they still have those rules if they were a private company? They would not have those rules.
It depends.
Right?
It depends on the number of employees. So like, I was talking to my husband about this, and he was saying there's tons of boutiques, right? Like if you go to if you go to LA or Beverly Hills or whatever, and there's a boutique that literally it's not a chain, it's not a brand, it's a boutique that exists only in one spot, little tiny place, right? Maybe they have, 5 employees. They can do whatever the hell they want, essentially, because they don't meet that limit or that number of employees. Right. Not even public though. It's literally about the number of employees that you have. If it's 50, if it's like less than 50, then you have a certain set of rules that you follow, but beyond that, you don't. So they can have a brand, and as long as they don't grow, right? As long as they stay a teeny tiny little outlet, they can have whatever aesthetic, they can hire whoever it is that they want. Just like we can hire whoever we want, and the government can't tell us what we can do and what we can't do. We can hire whatever we want. But the way that the system is set up is that they punish you for success. As soon as you get big enough and you start making a lot of money, then, no, then you have to change who you are and follow our rules. And I just think that is so inherently wrong when the market can take care of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. The market can't take care. And I think that therein lies the issue, is that, you became successful based on the brand that you created. And he became as skeevy and weird and effed up as these people were. They became successful based on the aesthetic that they presented to the people, to everybody, right? They became successful based on that. And then they were punished for it by the very government that, they set up, they got public, and the government was like, yeah, you're successful now and you're making all this money now. So now we're going to tell you what to do. And so it's just a perfect example of like overreach, you know what I mean? And so that's where I just get, like, as you would say, I get really fidgety about that. I really do. I don't like that, because then notice how they fell. That's why they fell. Now, granted, they're doing okay now, like, because they went through their time where they fell, and then now they've had a resurgence, and the kids still shop there. Teenagers go back there, people shop there, but it's not the Abercrombie that it was before. Now it just looks like everything else. Now I think Hollister's sort of taken over. Hollister's kind of like that brand where it's more of like the teenage brand, but
it still belongs to them though, right? Hollister?
It does. Hollister was the offshoot of Abercrombie, and they created that too. But it's one of those things where it's not what it was, and it's just interesting to me that, she's taken it over, that chick is taking it over, and it's basically just like every other brand out there,
Yeah. There's nothing special about it.
Nothing special about it at all, So I just kind of go, whatever. It's just, and that's one of the reasons that I just go, okay. That's why branding is so interesting to me, because I like to see something that is original and unique.
Yes.
And it was, and at the time it was very original and unique. And there's a reason it was original and unique. And, while people may say, well, that's not, you need to do XYZ. Well, he didn't want to do XYZ, and you can hate him for it, but you have to recognize that he did something cool, and he built a business that made billions. And, that's America, man. That's, you may say that that's anti-American because people were saying that's not inclusive and it doesn't really show a real America. Okay. But he built a business, and he did, I feel like, what Americans do, and that is they engage in capitalism, and they market, and they have a really cool idea, and he had an idea, and he did it, and he ran with it. And I think that's American, don't you?
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And so that, I'm so glad you watched it, and I hope other people watch it and then maybe weigh in. Maybe they can let us know what they think about it too, because I did feel crazy. And there were some parts of it where I sat there and I was like, what's wrong with me? Because like, I'm just not getting why this is so awful. I'm not getting it. And granted, by the end, there were certain examples, and certainly the sexual misconduct by the photographer was horrific. And there's, there were other just really awful things about the company, which is why I personally don't have any interest in shopping there. Personally, I don't have any interest in working there. But that's because I have that choice. It's not because I want them to change their practices. It's just that I kind of think they're gross and I don't care for them. So I'm not going to patronize them, right? Which is my choice, which is the beauty of our entire system. And I just felt like it was such an attempt by the documentarians to get me to side with how they were beat up on. And so I felt like, why am I not getting it? Clearly this is what I'm supposed to feel, and yet I don't feel that way. So there's some validation that you're giving me, and that you kind of saw that same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't get it.
And I think that they wanted us to, like, because at the end they were saying this represents the worst part of American culture. And I kind of was like, I don't know. I guess I kind of just bristled at that a little bit, because I was like, okay, well, listen, I hate that if there was discrimination there. I'm glad that it was taken care of. I'm glad that, people feel like they've I'm glad that people have been paid, and people feel like and listen, it fell, and it's come back again, whatever. But the fact that this man, or these men, as icky as they were, built this, and the branding part of it was brilliant. It's freaking brilliant.
It worked well, man. It worked well.
Yeah. I mean, it really was. And I think there's something to be said for that. It really, I do. They took something that was old, and then they recreated it. I find a little bit of value.
They renewed it. They rejuvenated it, much like Genucel does for our skin.
Yes. Totally.
By the way, I want to share a specific testimonial about Genucel. Yes, this is Samantha from Arcadia, California. Samantha said, this is what she said: love Genucel plant stem cell therapy, have used it all over my face, under my eyes, and it cleared up the dry flakiness and even reduced my forehead lines. Someone even asked if I had surgery or procedures done. Nope, just Genucel by Chamonix. Thank you. And she ain't wrong. And right now, if you order at genucel.com/chicks, they are going to include their dark spot corrector, which looks like this little bottle right here, which is like a miracle in a bottle.
It's so great.
Tell how it's helped you.
I had a really bad dark spot right here, and it's gone. I mean, it's just fantastic stuff, you guys. And it only took like 2 weeks for me to start seeing huge results with it. So it's fantastic, you guys. I love all of Genucel stuff.
I know. So and it's still 65% off of their most popular package, which is the one that includes all of the best stuff, like the XV cream, which is like the smooth, buttery anti-wrinkle cream. It's amazing. So you have to try it. If you haven't yet, now's a great time, because 65% off is 65% off. Am I right? Plus, you use code CHICKS at genucel.com/chicks. You get an extra discount at checkout. So make sure to visit genucel.com/chicks.
That's awesome. So what are you going to watch this weekend? You going to make me watch another like documentary on how capitalism sucks?
Well, I finally watched The Tinder Swindler, which everybody's been like totally chatting about,
Really?
and I finally watched that. It was interesting. I'm so
And
pissed
I
off that
watched
that guy is still free. It just,
really,
oh
and
my God.
I finally watched Bad Vegan.
The whole
I
thing?
finally watched the whole thing. I watched Bad Vegan. I
Did
watched
you read
got
her
through that.
website?
I didn't read the website, but
You
listen,
need to.
I'm sure that she got like, I'm sure she got done dirty, as you say, by Netflix. But still, she, even if she was done dirty, listen, the amount of bad decisions that woman made over and over again, I just can't. I mean, I've made some poor choices in my life. I've recognized the poor choices that I've made along the way. But like when you make them a couple, maybe even once, twice. You don't make them like 15 times. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's another one to watch for sure. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, if you were irritated with her, if you watch Tinder Swindler, you will not be irritated with those women because he
Okay.
was masterful at how he bamboozled them. So it's a good one. It's a good one to watch for sure.
Okay. Okay. All right, you guys. All right. Well, we hope that you have a fantastic week. Make sure that you're checking us out on all the socials at Chicks on Right, pretty much everywhere. And then our website. Check us out at chicksonright.com, from whence all chick stuff comes.
That's right.
That's the new,
Do
it's our
it.
nucleus. Yes, do it. We will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.